Okay, so we're doing a little holiday episode, I guess now. So yesterday morning we did this Rabbeinu Yonah on the two psukim that we were up to in Mishlei 23. Really we only need 24, which is Gil Yagil Abi Tzadik Yoled Chacham Yismach Bo. So the father of a Tzadik will surely be glad, and one who begets a Chacham will rejoice in him. Okay, so we're not going to learn that pasuk today. We did that yesterday. And in fact, most of the Mefarshim did not really give us anything new, but whatever, we had some approaches. So Rabbeinu Yonah, though, has a whole thing, which is a trove of insight, okay, which is Rabbeinu Yonah giving his definition of what a Chacham is. Now, just back up, I'm not going to do this as long as I did last night, of like reviewing the whole thing. My working definition of Chacham versus Tzadik, based on largely Rabbi Moskowitz, but then also influenced by Sadigon, is that a Chacham is on a lower level than a Tzadik. Tzadik includes Chacham, and a Chacham is someone who can see the consequences of his actions in a linear way. If I do A, then B will happen. A Tzadik is someone who sees the consequences of his actions in a systemic way. He's a thinker who is concerned with and thinks about things on a systemic level. And that's going to allow him to also see further consequences. And it's also going to make him be willing to do things even when he doesn't see a particular benefit to himself, because it benefits the system and that's beneficial for everybody. So that's been my working definition. But on our Monday night shiur over the last 2.5 years, we've seen glimmers that Rabbeinu Yonah perhaps does not agree with our definition. So there were glimmers, and then like yesterday morning was when we saw a flash, like a flare, that this is like, he definitely does not agree with this. Okay, so we're gonna go over what we did yesterday, this Rabbeinu Yonah. So if you want to pack it for just this one, and I think it actually has the Pirkei Avos thing as well. Debbie, you also were not able to vote because you weren't here. The vote is we're voting for how to become a Chacham, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, instead of going on a Mishlei. All right, so yeah. So I'm sorry. Okay, so here's what Rabbeinu Yonah says. Okay, so again, he's commenting on our pasuk, but we're not going to really care about the pasuk. Gil Yagil Abi Tzadik Yoled Chacham Yismach Bo. Hasimcha hi gedola mehagila. Rejoicing is greater than gladness. Al kain yaskir hasimcha ala chacham. Therefore, it mentions the simcha on the chacham. Ki yesh bo shtei na'alos. The chacham has two virtues. Shehu tzadik v'chacham. Yeah. Okay, that was the correct reaction. Okay, so he learned that the chacham is on a higher level than the tzadik. Okay, and again, this will become clear as we go through this. Ki lo yishabeach alav shalom es hachacham im einenu tzadik. Shlomo will not praise a Chacham if he's not a Tzadik. Okay, so that's an interesting lashon here. There's a pasuk that we did in Yirmiyahu last night that we looked up, that you can call someone a Chacham if he's not a Tzadik, because there's a pasuk where Yirmiyahu says Chachamim him lahara, that Klal Yisrael were Chachamim for evil. Okay, and I think the Rambam also quotes that in the More Nevuchim chapter on Chochmah towards the end, where he's talking about Chochmah can mean cunning. And I think he quotes that as an example of that, where like you're using your smarts for like for evil. But he's saying that Shlomo will not praise a Chacham. So when you see Shlomo talking about a Chacham in a good way in Mishlei, you can assume that he is a Tzadik. Okay, now that's not a hardcore proof, because according to us, the Chacham is also good. He's not using it for evil, but he's you could support our theory and Rabbeinu Yonah's theory with just that line. Okay. V'gam lo yikari chacham zulasi animshach achar hanefesh chachama kasher lo yikari yashar mishmakir hayosher im ein nafsho nimshachas achar hayosher. You also can't call someone a chacham unless his soul is drawn after, unless he is drawn after his rational soul. Just like you can't call someone a yashar unless he recognizes yosher and his soul is drawn after uprightness. Amru b'musarim, it says in the Musar Sefer, that's Mivkar Pninim. Al tadame b'nafshecha she'ata chacham kol she'ata roeh nafshecha nimshachas acharei taiva. You should not imagine in your soul or about yourself that you are a chacham as long as your soul is drawn after taiva. Okay, v'da. Okay, so yeah, so that's the end of point number one. We last night outlined these points in colors here. Okay, so that's point number one. Okay, so just note that. We'll go back and we'll try to synthesize it, but just note that for now. Okay, point number two. He says, it is more accurate to call someone a chacham, someone whose soul is drawn after the desire for Chochmah and fulfilling its words in its principles in action. even though he hasn't learned Chochmah. Okay, it's better to call that guy a Chacham min hanimshach achar taiva v'lama Chochmah than to call someone a Chacham who has learned Chochmah but he is drawn after taiva. Okay, so here is his indication that desire for Chochmah is more important than actual learning. Okay, yeah.
And it's not just that it's more important in a like philosophical sense. It seems like in terms of the definition of Chochmah.
The definition of Chochmah, yeah, and he's going to say that in a more extreme way in Pirkei Avos, which we're going to read after this. Okay, then he says, Umashi Hizkir Avi Tzadik Yoled Chacham Hu al derech mash amruzal ki nigzar al adam es hayitzira imhu Chacham o tipesh ani o ashir ach lo yigzor alav imhu tzadik o rasha. Okay, so I kind of want to sidestep this point for now because we encountered the difficulty yesterday. He says that Chazal say that it's decreed upon a person from birth whether he will be a Chacham or a tipesh or an ani or an ashir, but it's not decreed upon him whether he'll be a tzadik or a rasha. Rambam explicitly goes against that, says that all of the deos are up to a person's bechira. Okay, but Rabbeinu Yonah seems to be saying that only a tzaddik or a rasha is up to your bechira, and that also is in line with the Gemara. The Gemara reads like Rabbeinu Yonah, not like the Rambam. He says about tinasin bechira biada alkein lo amar yoled tzaddik. That's why it doesn't say someone who begets a tzaddik, because tzaddik is not determined from birth. Only chacham is determined from birth, according to Rabbeinu Yonah. Okay, so those are the 3 points here from Rabbeinu Yonah on Mishlei 23-24. Number 1, that you chacham. You can really divide this first point into 2. If you're a chacham, that implies tzidkus, because Shlomo is only going to praise someone who is drawn after his rational soul. And if you're drawn after your nefesh misave, your taiva, then you're lacking as a chacham. 2 is that it's more accurate to call someone a chacham based on the desire for chachma than based on the attainment of chachma. And then 3, Rabbeinu Yonah is saying that you are it is decreed upon you from birth whether you're giving a chacham or a fool, but not whether you're giving a tzaddik or a rasha. And I'm going to actually call on Chaim Zifkin first because he was there last night, and if he has something to fill in, then that'll be better for me. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Chaim.
I don't have anything to fill in, but I do have a point.
Oh, hold on. Apparently there's something wrong with the audio. Just 1 second. Just still wait 1 second. Okay, now talk.
Yeah, so I don't have necessarily a point to fill in, but I do have like an insight that I had since last night on that last part.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that like it could be that Rabbeinu Yonah and the Rambam aren't arguing on this, because I mean, chacham, wise or foolish, poor or rich, those are things that those aren't like deos, like those aren't like what Rambam would call.
Rambam calls them deos explicitly in that passage.
He calls poor and rich deos.
Well, sorry, he doesn't call poor and rich deos, but he calls chacham and tipesh deos. Yeah. Sorry, but say what you're gonna say anyway. Say what you're gonna say.
I was gonna say that if what Rabbeinu Yonah / like plain shot in the Gemara was saying that only righteous and wicked is what you have bechira for, then you could argue that all of your deos are like create a composite, which is either rishus or tzidkus.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, again,
but it's the Rambam,
yeah, I mean, I think this is a very important point, but I also don't want to get drawn into the bechira thing today. Yeah, so yeah, Ezra.
Yeah, does Mishlei ever talk about how to like choose what you're drawn after, or does it only say?
It definitely talks about how to choose what you're drawn after. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So you're asking like how to cultivate this as like how to cultivate the being drawn after the chacham.
What's the point? If a chacham is someone who's drawn after chachma,
yeah,
not after his taiva,
yeah,
and you're born either a chacham or not,
yeah.
What do you
okay, so I do think, all right, so this part we will go into a little bit. I do think that you cannot say that the Rabbeinu Yonah is saying that this is an immutable quality like your eye color, like you have to be saying that he's talking about a certain like propensity or like predisposition, which the Rambam says in Shmona Prakim. You can have a predisposition, which means that it's easier for you to acquire the perfection or imperfection than someone who doesn't have the predisposition, but you have to say that anyone can acquire it. Because
point is also
right. Okay, yeah. All right, maybe we do have to go into it. Okay, but that's also in what we saw a couple of psukim ago in 23, which is that the father's telling the son to become a chacham. right? So like it's clearly something that that you can have control over. Chaim, is that a residual hand or that's a new question? I didn't see whether you put your hand down.
Yes, it was sweaty.
Okay, yeah. All right. The joke on Monday night is someone used the term residual hand, and I picture a hand leaving a trail of residue, so we call it the sweaty hand for if someone accidentally leaves their hand up on Zoom. Okay, so then we have. I actually want to go out of order. The first indication we saw this year that Rabbeinu Yonah holds that a tzaddik is not on the level of a chacham is in chapter 11, pasuk 30. Okay, where he says. Pri tzaddik eitz chaim v'lokeach nefashos chacham. The fruit of a tzaddik is a tree of life, and one who takes souls is wise. Okay, again, we're not going to try to understand the pesukim. I just want to show you what he says here. He says, Pri tzaddik eitz chaim. So he learns that Pri here is his offspring. Okay, and he says, Lokeach nefashos chacham yitachin l'tzaddik shelo nisasik b'limud chochmah ki im b'kishron hamaseh. V'im biyado limshoch lev habrios l'kabel tochachosav ach banav shem tachas yado udvarav nishmaim lahem yadrichem b'derech chachma v'yagadlim b'nurehem. Okay, so he says it's possible that the chacham, who is not involved in learning chachma but only in correction of action, and he doesn't have the ability to draw people's minds to accept his rebukes, except for his own children who are under his authority and they listen to his words, and he can guide them in chachma and raise them from their youth. But the chacham should devarav nishmaim, whose words are listened to, lokeach nefashos u'moshech libos b'nei adam l'derech chaim u'mevi hadvarim b'libam b'chachmasa. The chacham can draw people in to the derech chaim through his chachma words. So there he's saying explicitly the tzaddik is not involved in chachma. He's involved in limud chachma. He's involved in kishron hamasa. Now clearly he is still capable of like bringing his kids into the world of Chochmah, because especially if he's Jewish, then being involved in Kishron Hamasa is it's going to lead you to like being involved in Chochmah, but he's not reaching them through his Chochmah because he hasn't learned Chochmah.
Kishron Hamasa is like
perfecting your actions. Yeah. So working definition of tzaddik according to him is someone who does righteous actions, whereas a chacham is someone who is doing righteous actions based on Chochmah. And Chacham is what we have to like try to define. Okay, so one more note here before we're done with the review. So in Avos, which I think this is going to be in your footnote, but let me know if you see any drastic differences, because basically I noticed that this is just something to note methodology wise in Pirkei Avos with Rabbeinu Yonah, that the standard Pirkei Avos Rabbeinu Yonah manuscripts are like messed up. So like you should use Torah Chaim, and it seems like even the Al Torah one is not a good one, because I had to like type in all of this. Yes, yeah. I assume that the one in the footnote in Mishlei is going to be quoting from the Torah Chaim one. Okay, Benzom Omer Ezehu Chacham Halomi Mikol Adam. So who is wise? Someone who learns from everyone. So on the surface, you could say like, oh yeah, you're learning from everyone, so you're going to gain more Chochmah, and that's going to make you more wise. Okay, but Rabbeinu Yonah doesn't entirely say that. He says Amru Chachmei Umos. The non-Jewish sages say, which I assume this is the Greeks, Ki hayodea kol hachachmas. This is where he says it in an extreme way. Someone who knows all wisdoms. Im eno ohev hachachma, eno chacham. Ela tipeshu. If he doesn't love chachma, he's not a chacham, but he's a fool. Achar she'eno ohev hachachma. Since he doesn't love chachma, ki hi hadas, because that is knowledge. And I think the footnote guy there says that's a weird statement to say. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, but he says I don't know what that means. Okay, so whatever, we'll leave that aside. But someone who loves it and yearns for it, even though he doesn't know anything. I mean, apparently he knows, that you should love chacham, but okay. He is called a chacham. Because in any event, he will acquire Chochmah, since his desire is in it. Okay, so he's kind of like straddling the fence here. Does this guy who loves Chochmah, is he called a Chacham because love of Chochmah is what makes you a Chacham, or is he saying that since a guy who loves Chochmah is going to eventually gain the Chochmah, then that's what's going to make him called a Chacham? Okay, let's just note the ambiguity here. Okay, fine. Then he says, Gam yesh ba'ava zo to'el shniya. There's a second benefit in this ahava of Chochmah. Ki ahavaso hachachma lo nihiyasa el mitoch yiraso b'Hashem yisbarach. That his love of Chochmah is can only exist doesn't come into being except out of Yiras Hashem, Yisbarach. Okay, I believe this is the first time we've seen the word Yisbarach in the wild since Wednesday night. So just remember the Sefer HaChiluk's idea on Yisbarach means it is a tefillah that all people should recognize God as the source of all their good, which will in turn make them worthy of receiving his good, which is what God's will is. So that's why he should bless himself is what the word Yisbarach literally means. But yeah, okay, good. Got it. Okay. All right. We gotta remember these things, because if you just gloss over it, then you're missing the whole point of it. So just gotta connect the dots here. Okay. Shezeh ha'ohev ha'ne'eman. Yeah. Yisbarach. So Baruch Atah Hashem, when you say Baruch Atah Hashem, you're saying, Hashem, you are the source of all blessing, of all goodness. Yisbarach or Yisbarech means God should bless himself, which sounds weird, like God should recognize he's the source of all blessing. So Sefer HaChiluk says, no, it means, I think it's Sefer HaChiluk in Taf Lamed, in Birkas Mazon, God, that all human beings should recognize God as the source of good, which will make them worthy of receiving his good, which will then make will be what they, God only gives his good to those who deserve it. So then they will be the recipient of his good, and that's God's will, is to do good to all of his creatures. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll summarize stuff for the later. Okay. When I'm done with this Rabbeinu Yonah. Shazeha Ohev Ne'aman. Okay. So anyway, so Avas Chochmah can only come about through fear of God. Okay. Shazeha Ohev HaNe'aman Mis'ave B'Chochmah HaMitis. This trustworthy lover of Chochmah will desire true Chochmah. V'Reishis Chochmah Yiras Hashem. And the beginning of Chochmah is Yiras Hashem. A little bit unclear whether Reishis Chochmah Yiras Hashem means the beginning of Chochmah or the best of Chochmah. Okay, there's Mefarshim are split on that, and I don't know how Rabbeinu Yonah takes it necessarily. Okay, so he says Nimses Omer. So consequently, you'll say Ki Ohev Chochmah Yarei Es Hashem, that someone who loves Chochmah fears Hashem. Okay, so that's his. Is that a second point? No, one more thing. Then he quotes the thing that is going to lead us to what we're going to do today. V'zehu she'amar Shlomo. This is what Shlomo means when he says, if you seek it like silver and you search for it like hidden treasure, then you'll understand fear of Hashem, and the knowledge of God you will find. If you seek Chochmah, which is the foundation of the world, which is the root of the world, and you yearn for it, just like you yearn for silver, then you will understand fear of Hashem. Then you will, in any event, you're guaranteed to acquire the true Chochmah, from which you'll understand Yiras Hashem. And you'll find knowledge of God. If anyone else feels like you're just having all these like Yiras Hashem knowledge terms swirling around in your head and you don't know what he's saying, then I'll summarize. Okay. And this is why Ben Zoma says, who is wise when he learns from every person. You love Chochmah so much and you desire it so much that you'll ask anybody for it. Even someone who only knows one thing, you'll learn from that guy. Then you'll succeed, and then you'll become intelligent. I think this might be a pun. Yaskil means because yaskil means to become intelligent, and also means to succeed. So I mean, not a pun, but okay, whatever. I mean, I think he's using this dafka. Yeah, right. Chacham she'amar mikol lamdai hiskalti shekin amar David al-Sham shalamad mikol adam v'lo haya omer zeh v'lo haya omer zeh inu yodea kamoni ki mikulam lamad of hiskel. David said, I learned from all of my teachers, and he didn't say, oh, this guy doesn't know as much as I do, but rather I learned from all my teachers and became intelligent from all of them. Mashal adam shehifsid kli katan, this is a good mashal. Mashal can be compared to a guy who loses a small object. Isn't he going to ask everyone for it, like whether they found it? Yeah.
It was an interesting mashal. Like you wouldn't think that like anybody who loses a small little thing is going to look for it. So why does he says the mashal as if it's like obvious. Now, of course, you gotta look for your small little object, but like, shouldn't it be like, mashal to a man, even for the small little object, he goes and asks everyone.
I don't get what your objection.
I'm saying he makes it sound like it's pressure that like anybody who loses a small little thing is going to go look for it.
Well, I assume it's a valuable thing.
Oh,
yeah.
I
don't think it's like if you lose some pocket lint. I think it means like yeah.
Something like actually wasn't relevant, like almost like a pin or something.
Yeah, I think the thing that's
Like it sounds like that's. I understand where you're about the same thing at first, but I think he's saying he's not going to only ask great people. Hey, have you seen my thing? He's going to ask anyone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the small thing is, one idea. Like even for one idea,
Yeah.
Lose, like your ring. I was gonna ask jewelers. You're gonna ask like everybody.
If you lose your ring, you're gonna ask any single person on the street.
Maybe
Yeah.
for a little idea that even an average person might give you, like maybe it's not the most earth-shattering
Yeah.
Tiddish,
Yeah.
but that's also useful.
Yeah. I had an experience like this over the summer. So my key slipped off of my keychain when I was at Whole Foods. And I looked everywhere for it and asked every single person. And what had happened was, how some of these double bag things in the brown paper bag, it slipped in between the two bags and went down to the bottom. It was under the thing. It was just like, it was one of these things where like, I knew it was there somewhere, but like, anyway, it was, but it was a humbling experience, not humbling in the sense like, oh, I had to like, but like, it was, there's a certain, to me, this is a very evocative thing because it was a clean Chacham, but very important because like, it's a car key, and like just asking anyone, there's no care whatsoever. Like, oh, this person's gonna think I'm crazy, like, no, I'm just gonna ask everyone, like any random stranger, I'm gonna crawl on the ground to like, I'm like, trying to find it. Yeah.
And then a little kid saved you.
What?
And then a little kid like that.
No.
I thought this is where this was going.
Oh no. Did you just miss when I said how I found it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. It wasn't a little kid. Yeah. Except yeah.
I thought you knew where it was. But how did you get it? I'm saying.
Oh no. So it was in the double bagged brown paper bags, but it had slipped underneath one of them in the bags. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so again, all this is a review from last night, but we basically summarized this into 6 notes. Okay. These are the 6 things that Rabbeinu Yonah is teaching us about a Chacham. Number 1, Chacham includes Tzadik. Okay. In terms of the order of the levels, as opposed to us where we hold that a Tzadik is higher than a Chacham. Okay. 2, Chacham is measured by desire for Chochmah and for the desire for Chochmah and to fulfill its dictates and actions, whereas the opposite of Chochmah is one who's drawn to lust. Okay, that's another note. 3, you can be born to be a Chacham, whatever that means. Let's just add here, born with a predisposition. I think we have to say that, to be a Chacham, but not to be a Tzadik. Okay. 4, I'm just going to take Rambam out of the picture because we're just doing Rabbeinu Yonah. 4, it's not what you know, but your desire for Chochmah that makes you called a Chacham. Okay, called a Chacham. 5, Chochmah and fear of Hashem are interrelated, right? That he says that if you have Chochmah, then you have fear of Hashem, because Yiras Hashem is the Reishis Chochmah, which either means that since it's the Reishis at the beginning, then you have to do Yiras Hashem before you get to Chochmah, or if Yiras Hashem is the best of Chochmah, then like you're going to be drawn to that. I think it makes more sense to assume it's the beginning of Chochmah. Yeah. And then 6 is a Chacham will see Chochmah anywhere and from anyone, regardless of who he is and who they are. Yeah.
How are B and D different?
B and D are different. So it's interesting. In Pirkei Avos, he doesn't mention anything about acting in line with your Chochmah. Whereas in Mishlei, he says your desire for Chochmah and to fulfill its dictates in action. And also in Mishlei, he doesn't really emphasize that you'll go to any lengths to get the Chochmah, right? He doesn't quote the pasuk about like searching for like hidden treasure, doesn't talk about like asking people. So it seems like those are 2 different, it seems like your desire for Chochmah expresses itself in how you pursue the theoretical, and then how much you embody it in action. Yeah.
Which one of the 4 Chochmah? I know it's not a Rambam, but like what kind of Chochmah are we talking about?
Yeah, you're talking the Moreh Nevuchim, the 4 types of Chochmah. Yeah. So
because I felt like those covered all the kinds of.
Yeah, I don't want to make a statement on that because I haven't seen it inside in a while. So I don't want to.
Even outside of that, just like, is there a type of Chochmah?
Mishlei Chochmah. So that's all we know. Yeah. So the whole thing that we're trying to do today is to figure out what Rabbeinu Yonah means by Chacham. Okay, so let me just share with you the fruits of last night's investigation. Okay, and then we'll do the new stuff. Okay, I guess this is going more than one day. Yeah.
You want to share the questions or?
Nah, not really. Thank you though. All right. So again, the goal last night was to see what is the difference between the way that I understand a Chacham and a Tzadik based on Rabbi Moskowitz and 20 years of Mishlei versus the way that Rabbeinu Yonah understands, a Chacham. What?
Based on being Rabbeinu Yonah.
Yeah, based on being Rabbeinu Yonah, right? Yeah. So the way we said it last night, I think, is that according to the way we learn Chacham and Tzadik, there are two levels of development in, I'm going to botch this. Pressure's on you now. Yeah. Two levels of, I'm going to try saying, I might have to refine it. Two levels of development in Chochmah being real to you. Okay. So the fool, the Mishlei fool, Chochmah is not real to him at all. The only thing that's real is the immediate. Okay. So he's drawn to immediate pleasure and avoiding immediate pain. The Chacham is real to him, but only in terms of like consequences, right? Linear consequences that if I do this, then this bad consequence is going to happen to me, or I have to do this in order to get this good long-term benefit. And for the Tzadik, he realizes the reality of systems, that systems are a reality in the world, and that's real to him. And that propels him both to think in a more long-term way and also to care about the system in terms of like his actions. Okay, that's,
Clarify that last part?
yeah.
Like what, how is it different in consequences?
Because if you're thinking about things systemically, then you will even do actions that don't have a direct impact on you, but because they improve the system or remove bad things from the system, then it'll affect you.
A little, not really, that's so far.
Yeah, it's Mishlei altruistic, which, and I'm just gonna use the example I always use because I use this last night. Also, is like you're in a high school and like you see a lost object. So the fool will either steal the object or will just leave it alone. Steal it because immediate benefit without any costs, or like immediate pain without any benefits. The Chacham will return the lost object because he'll realize that, you know, this person will then, you know, owe me a favor, or like this person will see me as a good person, or like this will be like, you know, like there's some benefit that's going to come. You know, this person will help me. No, this is the Chacham. This is just linear consequences. But he'll return it because of the benefit he's going to get out of it. The Tzadik will return it even if there's no benefit at all to him, because he knows that this is promoting a system in which people care about each other's objects, people care about each other's like feelings.
He likes that kind of system. He wants that kind of world.
Yeah, that's going to be a good system, and it will benefit him, but this particular act will not benefit him. And he's going to, you know, therefore he's going to improve the system. And then we mentioned the extreme example of that is a Socrates who will be willing to submit himself to an unjust death penalty for the sake of the justice system of Athens, even though he's going to die, you know, or in our equivalent, not that it's equivalent, like Lahavdil, but like dying al Kiddush Hashem, you know, is that you're perpetuating these ideas in humanity, and that's the true good, even though I myself am going to die, you know. Like that's I don't think a Mishlei person, I don't think a Mishlei Chacham would give up his life for anything, but a Mishlei Tzadik would. Yeah. Okay, so that's our definition. Rabbeinu Yonah's definition seems to be about, so Tzadik, again, our goal was not to define Tzadik, but we just had Tzadik as a foil to the Chacham. Tzadik is someone who's characterized by Kishron Hamaseh, someone who does righteous actions and is focused on the cultivation of those actions. Now you can do that through Chochmah, but you can also do it through mitzvahs. You know, you can do it through like good upbringing, right? So but the definition of Tzadik, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, is not a development of your Chochmah. It is a perfection of your action. Chacham, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, is, what do you say? How do you find all these things? Well, I stall for time. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I don't think we didn't really.
We did everything except for the last point.
Still, let's go to the question again.
What is a Chacham according to Rabbeinu Yonah in a way that unifies all 5 of these points? Yeah.
I'm gonna take a stab at it.
Okay, sure.
A Chacham is a person who sees the reality of the system that Hashem created.
Okay.
And wants to learn about it and understand it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sees the reality of the system that Hashem created and wants to learn about it and understand it. Okay, I think that's a good possibility. Yeah.
Isn't it also to fulfill its actions?
Yeah, I think you have to include that. Yeah. See, I don't want
Go to action.
to fill it in action, right? It's not just wanting to understand it on a theoretical level, right?
But to feel it.
It has to affect his actions. Feeling it is part of it, but even feeling it is not enough. It has to actually express itself in how he acts. Yeah, it has to change his taivas. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I was partially including that when I said like I think it's like he understands it on like this real like a visceral level.
Yeah.
such that, it will affect its actions because,
Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
adding a key point. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm tempted to say is that, like, for Rabbeinu Yonah, then Chacham is someone who that, I mean, pretty much what you said, but I'm saying it includes my understanding of Chochmah and Tzadik, in the sense that it's just in the realm of how real to you Chochmah is. The more real it is to you, the more you will act in accordance with it, the more it'll affect your emotions, the more you'll desire it, and it'll have a grounding in your system. We said it better last night. I'll have to listen to it. Yeah.
It's just a point.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Rabbeinu Yonah doesn't explicitly say anything about like Chochmah causing you to reach out to others to like teach them per se.
Right here, he does not do that. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, and I am aware, by the way, I would say painfully aware, but I don't feel like pain. That we're not going through every single Rabbeinu Yonah on Chacham, and that there might be more of these. I kind of have to. I didn't know I was going to do this morning until like I walked in. So I might have to do a search of other, like, again, I mentioned yesterday morning and last night. It is so. I don't understand how Rabbeinu Yonah, what his writing philosophy is. Like, I've never understood this. We've talked before about how Rabbeinu Yonah is extremely inconsistent in what he writes. Like, sometimes he'll explain to you every single point in beautiful order, like he's writing an essay. Sometimes it'll feel like you're reading his notes, and like he's not explaining anything. I don't understand why he only deploys this idea in chapter 23. Like, it seems like maybe in pasuk lasei slipsime arma ladas yishmach Chacham v'yosef lekach in pasuk 5 in Mishlei, he should is it 5? He should tell us. Yeah, he should tell us what a Chacham is there, but yet, what does he say? Nothing. Yeah, right. So I just don't know. And it could be, look, we do know that there are, look, he doesn't even say anything on 5 or 6. We do know that that there are parts of the Rabbeinu Yonah manuscript on Mishlei that were lost, like chapters like 3 through 9, and like splotches of other stuff. But I don't know. It's puzzle 5 and 6. Yeah. Or he didn't write on 5 and 6. I just don't know. It's like this. I assume he didn't write on it because unless the only manuscript we have has like someone's eating like a hamburger and like the grease. Yeah.
I mean, his point of attack from like in our process, is like from the difference between Yagyo and
exactly, right. That is another astonishing point, right? It's not saying, like, if this were the Malbim would say yesh hevdel ben Tzadik v'Chacham, right? But like, as if his goal is to just explain it in an Israeli accent. But the Rabbeinu Yonah is only trying to comment on Gil and Simcha and then inferring backwards from that. Yeah, strange. Yeah, let's go.
Going back to trying to unify.
Yeah.
Do you mind go to the second take? Okay. Seems like, and maybe I'm repeating things that hopefully I'm not. Chochmah is the desiring aspect towards that knowledge, while Yira is more like the aspect of like the Tzadik, and so that while one contained two, like ultimately your Chochmah should lead you to that kind of like maybe this is actually one of the best thing, that like the ultimate like display of your Chochmah, it should lead you to the realization of Yiras Hashem. And so far, as far as the system goes, right. And so you can be born, like everyone is born with a general desire to start off with going for what is ultimately going to get them what they want. On the simplest level, that's of course going to be Chochmah. It's just like intelligent, smart, and strategizing, whatever. But the smartest thing ultimately is to see the good in like this, in the system benefiting. Right. And so that's now like perfecting even your desires. Your desires have kind of gone up to it.
Okay, so this brings us to a good transition to what we want to work on for today and I guess tomorrow. Okay, and maybe beyond. Okay, which is so you have the beginning of Mishlei, the statement Yiras Hashem Reishis Da'as, Chochmah Musar Avilim Bazar. So fear of Hashem is the beginning of knowledge. Chochmah and Musar are despised. Fools despise Chochmah and Musar. Okay, so that's like the crowning pasuk of Mishlei. Okay, then you have the similar pasuk that Rabbeinu Yonah quoted in Tehillim 1:11:11. Sounds like the phone number you call when you want Chochmah. Wait.
Yeah.
1:11:10. 1:11:10. Right, I got it wrong then. Reishis Chochmah Yiras Hashem Seichel Tov L'Chol Osem Tilas Omer Lad. The beginning of Chochmah is Yiras Hashem. Seichel Tov, good intelligence or good success. L'Chol Osem, to all who do them. Tilas Omer Lad. His praise. Its praise lasts forever. Okay, I didn't know how to read this exactly. Okay, so you've got this idea that at the very beginning, Yiras Hashem is at the very beginning of your Chochmah or Das journey. Okay, but then you have our psukim here, which is what we're going to focus on. So let's just translate this and raise some questions today, and then we'll have to delve into this tomorrow. Mishlei 2:1-5. Okay, so this is going to say, hold on just a second here. And again, our goal is not to learn Mishlei. Our goal is to learn Rabbeinu Yonah on Mishlei. Okay, this is different than the way we usually do it. Okay, so B'ni, my son, im tikach amarai, if you take my statements, umitzvosai titmonitach, and my commandments you guard with yourself. Okay, and I think I'm using a lowercase because I think this is not God talking. I think this is Shlomo or the Father talking. Okay, so this is now what the commandments are, or this is the instructions. To listen attentively to wisdom, to make your ear, to incline your ear attentively to wisdom. I guess I don't know how to translate this. Tate libicha l'tavuna, incline. No, I can't use incline twice. Listen attentively with your ear to wisdom. Okay, incline your heart or mind to understanding. Okay, ki'im labina tikra, if you only call out to understanding, la tavuna titin kolecha, give forth your voice to Tavuna, okay, which is another word for understanding. I don't know exactly how we want to translate the difference between those two, or if we care. Im tavakshena kasef, if you seek it like silver, yeah. V'chamat monim takusena, and you search for it like hidden treasure, okay. Az tavin yiras Hashem, then you will understand fear of Hashem. V'das alakim timsa, and you will find knowledge of God. So just to connect this to what Chizkiyahu said, is that Yiras Hashem is at the beginning of the journey from Reishis Chochmah, Yiras Hashem, and Reishis Das, Yiras Hashem, and it's also at the end. But at the end, you get to understand Yiras Hashem. Okay, yeah, and so what we need to figure out is what these four things are. And since we're learning Rabbeinu Yonah, let me just show you what Rabbeinu Yonah says on this, just to set us up for tomorrow. Rabbeinu Yonah on 2:1. B'ni im tikach amarai. Hine b'parsha azos yidaber al hakdama haravi'is asher la'avodas habora yis'ala. This is talking about the fourth prerequisite. I think he's saying hakdama is prerequisite to serving the Creator. V'hi limud hachachma, which is the learning of Chachmah. Okay, what are the first three prerequisites, you might ask? Good question. I forgot. All right, but this is the fourth one. Kasher amru zal, as Chazal said, Torah mevia lidei maseh. The Torah brings you to Maaseh. Isn't the phrase Talmud mivili de Maaseh?
Yeah. At least the way that.
Girsa Shalanu Bavakama Gadol Talmud Torah Talmud mivili de Maaseh. Okay, fine. All right, yeah. Visadir es hamaaseh asher hu bahem yasik ha'adam liknos ha'chachma visaper etzem ha'toelas asher yagiu min ha'chachma. So Shlomo is arranging for you the maaseh. I think he here means like the activities or the steps that you need in order to acquire Chochmah, and he's telling you the essential benefit that you'll derive from Chochmah. In fact, this is really more in line with what we've been doing than I thought. Why? How does this follow from what we've been doing in 23?
23 or how much?
In 23, in Mishlei 23.
It's like instructive.
Emes kanev al timkor Chochmah u'musar bina, right? He told us to acquire truth and Chochmah u'musar bina, but he didn't tell us how. Right. So now we're learning how. Yeah.
I agree. They're talking about the whole parish.
I mean the local cluster at the very least also. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is a good natural stopping point here. I really do. Maybe I do need to go back. I think I summarized the difference between Rabbeinu Yonah and us much better last night, but I don't remember what I said. So we'll do that. I think I'm also going to do a hunt for other Rabbeinu Yonahs on Chochmah, just to see if there's any other like juicy tidbits we're missing. Yeah.
I have one quick thought about this.
Sure.
Just scroll down a little bit. So it's the first the Chochmah is going into your ear.
Yeah.
And then your heart.
Right.
And then you're calling out.
Oh, that's good. That's a good observation.
So
right.
It's like.
And then you're flailing to try to find it. Yeah. Yeah.
First, it's like coming into you.
Yeah.
And then you're internalizing it, and then you're vocalizing.
That's a good point. That's a good pattern.
Or are you trying to like? Are you actively seeking?
You're doing something with your voice, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And then forward to the end, but.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah, let's go.
Is the part about how at the end, once you really, I guess maybe acquire Yira, now you'll understand it, like the thing that you started with. Could that be inversely said too, where like you start off employing the techniques or I guess the motivations of Chochmah, but it's only once you hit Yira that you really see like the true Chochmah. Like you reach like the real like level of Chochmah, which now you go, oh, now I see like why this is Chochmah in the first place. Like more than just like
I guess we'll find out. I don't know. I mean, it kind of depends on what the understanding adds to the Yira. I'm realizing what we might have to do also. I'm not saying this like it's bad, but like we have to go into the Mishnahs and Pirkei Avos of Ein Yira, Ein Chochmah, Ein Yira, and Kol Shiur Kodemes LeChochmaso, Chochmaso Miskayemes, and the Rabbeinu Yonah is there. Okay, I mean this is this is important. I mean, we might. But then the other part of me says we should finish the local cluster because we've been on that. So I don't know what to do. We'll see how the mood strikes me tomorrow. Maybe what might happen is what we'll do is because we have 2 more psukim in the local cluster and we have 2 more days of Mishlei scheduled. So maybe what we'll do is we'll finish the local cluster. That'll give me more time to research this issue and collect the Rabbeinu Yonahs on Chochmah, and then maybe we could do Chochmah week next week. Yeah. Good to have theme weeks. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. Have a good day. Yeah.
how do you say the wise thing?